Well, if you missed out today, there were memorial services held for the once great Tadej Pogačar, Slovenian three-time winner of the Tour de France, winner of the UAE Tour and smashing through the classics this year, Flanders, the Ardennes, coming second in Paris-Roubaix, the Tour de France winning 4 stages and the uphill time trial at the Paraguay, resting, resetting, coming back at the World Championships where I'm now standing in Kigali, capital of Rwanda, where he was demoralized, and perhaps this is the end of the Tadej Pogačar reign. I don't know. He was out on his bike today enjoying the countryside with his girlfriend or fiance, I'm not quite sure, and they were enjoying the time with a local riding his bike next to them, and they were having some fun, joking around. Everything seems okay, but is it? Because yesterday, in the individual time trial, racing for gold medal, Tadej got his head kicked in. We expected a little bit more from Tadej. Sure, Remco Evenepoel, 2-time world champion, coming in to win his 3rd straight title here in Kigali. He dominated, but we expected Tadej on this climber's course to be a little bit better, and certainly not to get passed by Remco in the closing kilometers up the Kimihurura climb. Cobbled, should have suited Tadej, but no, Tadej couldn't handle this coat, this berg. What we'd see is something like that in Flanders, but today he was getting smashed. Remco, yes, the better TT rider for sure, but Tadej wouldn't have liked how it ended yesterday in the time trial. And we spoke with him in the mix zone following the time trial, and he tried to keep his head up, but reality, for the most of that interview, his head was down, the hat covering his eyes. We couldn't really make great eye contact with him. And he said that was not great, being passed by Remco Evenepoel. And we sort of wonder what that means. Was today the memorial service for Tadej Pogačar, the once great, dominant, perhaps the greatest of this generation? And I think, yes, the greatest of this generation. Has that era ended? Or is this just a pause, a time to breathe before we get into 2026? Has Tadej given everything that he's had in 2025? Or am I reading too much into this? Drop down in the comments and let me know if I'm crazy or if I'm on point. Let me know what you made of yesterday's TT ride by Tadej Pogačar. Going well in the first time check, dropping off in the second. In the third, we could tell it wasn't going to be a great day out for Tadej, and just holding on, hoping that Remco wouldn't pass him before the finish line. And Remco did so on his way to pick up that 3rd straight gold medal in the World Championships UCI 2025 time trial. Remco celebrating. We all thought Remco was one of the favorites, along with Tadej Pogačar coming into this event. We didn't expect Tadej to suffer as bad as he did. Racing out there in his green jersey, unusual if you're following cycling all year long, because when normally you see him in the white and black and that ugly gray color of UAE Team Emirates. Well protected by riders like Berg, McNulty, Isaac Del Toro, this core group of riders. Yesterday he was out there on his own to defend himself and in the green colors of Slovenia. He's done it before on his own. He did well at the Paraguay TT and the Tour de France. Sure, that was already after Remco Evenepoel abandoned the Tour de France. And Remco, remember, he won the Stage 5 time trial in the Tour de France, but Remco wasn't at his best in 2025. Last year in 2024, he did do that podium finish behind Tadej and Jonas in the Tour de France. But this year wasn't to be for Remco, but he's bounced back, and he's back at that level we expect from Remco. But this wasn't 200 kilometers plus that we're going to face on Sunday. So maybe the tables will turn. Maybe that's where Tadej will excel, and we'll see Remco back to his usual level for 2025. Or perhaps we'll see what I was suggesting at the start of this video, and that indeed we should be holding these memorial services for Tadej Pogačar. I don't know. Maybe my head's spinning too much. I took a motorbike taxi, which are great here in Rwanda, out to the countryside this morning and ran a good 12, 15 kilometers on partly dirt roads with locals waving and running along beside me, this little kid, and having a great time out there. And then at the end of the circuit, instead of taking the motorbike taxi back to my hotel, I decided to run the final 5K, about a 2.5 kilometers. So I pulled the plug and jumped on a motorbike taxi to get back to the hotel. Truth be told, I needed to get to the event here in Kigali where the under 23 men and women time trials were being held today. But during that time, I was reflecting on this scene that we saw in Sunday's individual time trial. So unusual to see Tadej Pogačar so broken down by one of his rivals. He's normally there, close, competing for the victory if he's not dominating and smashing the others' heads in. Yesterday, he was the one getting his head smashed in. He didn't finish close second. He was getting a thorough beating, and it didn't look good. We don't know, at one point, perhaps he preferred not to have a silver medal, and perhaps he eased up on it. He said, I don't even want to stand on the podium. I don't want to be a part of this if I'm not going to take home gold. Or he just didn't have the legs, and he was beaten thoroughly by Remco Evenepoel there at the line. Remco, Tadej briefly touched each other's hands. Tadej congratulated Remco on his third straight victory, adding that to his Olympic time trial and road race gold medals. This was a true beating for Tadej. You'll remember Tadej, with in addition to those 4 stages at the Tour de France, the dominant performance, and that last day's ride in Paris where they took us up Montmartre, beautiful. He was attacking the whole way. He got better by Van Aert, but we saw that he was in form. Even in the rain, he wanted to come out and party. That's the Tadej, that's the Poggy that we know and love. Yesterday in the group chat with my colleagues, I sent them a face, an upside down frowny face emoji with tears coming out and saying, what happened to our Tadej Pogačar? What happened to a Poggy? Questions are going to be asked as we roll ahead in these days. There's going to be a news conference with Tadej. We're wondering to find out if that's going to be alongside some of his other Slovenian teammates, including Primož Roglič himself, an Olympic time trial champion before Remco Evenepoel took the gold. We're going to be looking for those answers as we approach the road race, and for sure Tadej will have a strong team around him, perhaps divided because Primož and Tadej, although same nationality, they chat, but they're not the closest of friends when they're out there on the bikes, usually on rival teams, but they somehow make it work together in Team Slovenia. Tadej oftentimes doesn't even need a team there in the final. He can do it all on his own as long as his team puts him into position. But this is a difficult moment for Tadej. What's happening here? We're scratching our heads. An unusual moment. I haven't seen something like that myself in the mix zone yesterday where Tadej was demoralized. We saw him after the mix zone. I kept following him and filming some footage of him with his DS and his coach there as he was scratching his head, and then I filmed some more footage of him walking off in the distance and thinking, was Tadej walking off from the great that he used to be? Was he turning his back on that chapter? Is this the end? Are we not going to see the same Tadej show in 2026 that we've been treated to, certainly in 2025, certainly in 2024, and the gradual ramping up of that to reach that point? He popped out, rose up in 2019, won those stages at the Vuelta a España. 2020, upset Primož Roglič in that penultimate stage, uphill time trial, to capture the overall at the Tour de France. And since then, he's just been going better and better. But something was off yesterday. He's going to need to stop, analyze it. Perhaps he did that with Urska this morning on their training ride when they were out joking, having fun with some of the locals there on their city bikes as they make their way. That's their mode of transportation, or the motorbikes. This country, car ownership's not massive, but it's a clean, beautiful country. I love Rwanda. I came here back in 2012 for the Tour of Rwanda. I had a chance to go all the way out to Lake Kivu where the power goes in and out, intermediate power, and it's weak at times, but the Rwandans are resilient. And here you learn something about Africa. They've had a hard time here in Rwanda, of course, with the 1994 genocide, but even with a brutal past like that, they're able to keep that memory, but also look ahead and present us a beautiful, clean country like this with a smiling face, always able to help and say hello.
Welcome in Rwanda.
And we saw that little interaction with Tadej and one of the locals there. He was just smiling, having a great time. And it's been a great host country here, and it is a great host country as we pass this week, and a week of mourning. I don't know. Is it mourning for the once great Tadej Pogačar? Is this just a slight dip in his form? Let me know down in the comments. And we're going to be working this out in the days that lead up to Sunday's big one, around about 250 kilometers, with the big favorites being Tadej and Remco, and throwing other names in there like USA rider Quinn Simmons, who has Kevin Vermarke alongside him, a power-packed team. And if you're on FloBikes, you can watch it live and in demand as long as you're in the United States and Canada. And we have highlights, on-the-ground coverage. I'll be running around vlogging some footage for you as we go forward to Sunday's big event with the other events along the way, the mixed relay TTT on Wednesday, the women's elite race on Saturday, and on Sunday, we're going to find out, does Tadej Pogačar still have it? Is he still the great? Tune in for Sunday. The men's world's race, 2025 UCI Cycling World Championships, and Tadej Pogačar being put to the test.